Hello again, Struck. Today I'm gonna be bringing you another video for Torchlight 3, and this one is my 2021 edition of the Railmaster Class Skills Showcase. In this video I will be showing you every single skill of the Railmaster and also mentioning some item synergies. There haven't been major changes since the last time I made such a video. Apart from I think they reworked since the last video, they reworked the endurance system to work slightly differently, and some skills have become a little bit different, but the core concept of every skill remained the same apart from some rebalances. There are some things that are major, and that's for example the nerf to Lantern Flash tier 2 to not give you 65% damage versus slow targets but only 10%, which didn't really hurt much not flame but train builds because they were strong as they were, but slammer builds now are super underpowered compared to train builds. I hope they buff the slammer skills a little bit to even the odds. Let's start with the train skills though. So first we've got build train. Build train, the most basic train car skill, and the only item synergy for this one I can think of is the tenderizer. Also you need other train car skills to get the tenderizer to work, and you need to activate them. And this skill is super underwhelming. Even when you max it out, even when you have tenderizer, it still feels underwhelming. I wish they would do something more to this skill to make it worth taking a skill bar slot. Alternatively, I would love to see it just removed as a skill that we need to put in our skill bar slot, and to just have the train automate and to have just a toggle hotkey that we can key bind to whatever we want. But again, for consoles that won't be viable to add another hotkey that needs to be used, so I guess I understand why they keep it the way it is. But hopefully at least they buff the skill to make it worth that skill point, that skill bar slot. Now we're moving on to one of the best skills in the game. This is Flamethrower Car. Even with the nerf to Lantern Flash tier 2, it's still strong, it's still good. Synergies would be the Doompipe, amazing item. Then you've got things like the Tenderizer and Cosmic Gauntlets that you can use train car skills to trigger and to get certain bonuses, and it's amazing skill. In fact, I really don't like how you cannot use this with Mortar Car. I think they need to do a major rework in that regard for the train skills, so that you have pick two between flamethrower, mortar, shotgun and shield. Pick two, any two, and play with those two. From the four, pick two. Right now from the four you can pick one of one couple and one of another couple, and this is not that great. But Flamethrower Car, amazing skill, probably one of the best in the game. Mortar Car, it's not that bad, they've improved the skill, but compared to Flamethrower Car, if you have to pick one or the other, I personally think Flamethrower Car is stronger. Some people might like Mortar Car more, but I just can't recommend it as much as Flamethrower Car. But what I would really love to see is, as I mentioned, the ability to play Flamethrower Car with Mortar Car, which would synergize amazingly well with Flaming Destroyer builds and with Lantern Flash and things like that, so we can stack all the burning, so we can watch the world burn as our Flamethrower and Mortar and Lantern Flash and Flaming Destroyer destroys enemies. Again, a synergy would be the Doompipe, the Tenderizer, the Cosmic Gauntlets. And yeah, the skill can be fun, but again, very hard to recommend it knowing how strong Flamethrower Car is. And it's not that Flamethrower Car is overpowered, it's that this is a little bit weaker compared to it. Now we're moving on to Shotgun Car, another amazing strong skill. And combining this with Flamethrower Car is in most cases the meta for playing train builds. You have the Shotgonner shield as a synergy item to boost the skill, and then again Tenderizer and Cosmic Gauntlets are other synergy items you can consider. When you max out the skill, it's pretty fun, and when you have Shotgunner shield, it's also pretty amazing, good DPS. And again, you cannot use this with Shotgun Car, with Shield Car. I wish you could use Shotgun and Shield Car for some interesting builds. And this brings us to Shield Car. You cannot use this with Shotgun Car, as I mentioned, and item synergies would be the cosmic gauntlets and the tenderizer as a suggestion, and this gives you damage reduction. And now damage reduction is additive, and you can see the different types of damage reduction on your screen. There's 50 or 70 depending if you have the upgrade percent from hitting enemies with melee. Then there's 20% when you stand next to your shield, and then there's another 50% when you activate it. So you can get 70 plus 20 plus 50% damage reduction from this, and this is pretty decent, pretty nice thing to stack that much damage reduction. So if you want to go defensive, this is nice, and this can even heal you when you upgrade it to the right stage. What you're seeing on your screen is just the most basic version, just 0 points plus 2, so it's not even tier 1, but it was decent. It's definitely nice for survivability, and if you combine that with hammer spin, you get so much damage reduction. And now moving on to shocking rounds. I think it's another underwhelming skill that's crying for a buff. I think they didn't know what to do with this skill, and they just kept changing certain things, and it just doesn't feel right. Using this in a build that wants it for damage doesn't feel right. At best on maybe on an Electrode of Limit Destroyer build when you want the procs, when you want to get procs to trigger, because this just doesn't do damage to make it equal to Flamethrower car or to Shotgun car or to Mortar car. You see, I was showing you footage from the same map on all of those skills, so you can see same enemies, same equipment, same items, with just some changes between the between the Doompipe and the Shotgunner shield. But apart from that, everything is the same. You can see how bad the damage of this skill is. It's just terrible, and that's putting it mildly. Now, Ghost Train. I really loved this skill when it was a Slammer, a lineage skill, when it wasn't on the Conductor tree. Not a big fan of it now. I wish I could boost this with Slammer bonus damage, not with Conductor bonus damage. So I can use it in Slammer builds, not on Conductor builds. So I can combine the summons from this with the summons from the Flying Picks without needing to invest into Conductor to boost those summons. But in general, it's an interesting skill, it's a nice skill. It was much stronger back in the alpha. Right now it feels a little bit underwhelming even when you max it out. But the Hammer Bros, the spirits, they're pretty fun. Maybe on some minion builds if you wanna do something like my Bane Ductor, Ancestral Bane Ductor, stacking spirits, you might use that skill. And it's a good filler skill if you have nothing to do with a certain point, with certain SWAT. Now this brings us to Pound, and we're moving on to the Slammer skill 3. With Pound, you can stun enemies, you can do some shockwaves. I'm gonna try and show you the battery ram in this video, and synergies would be things like the Berserk Crusher that gives you a charge, the battery ram that I'm gonna show you throughout this video. You can see I'm building charges now by using cooldown skills, then I'm gonna use them to do the shockwaves. And Skittering Legs is another synergy you could consider because this is a melee skill, so it can trigger Skittering Legs. So you can see we're using the shockwaves, getting those electric AoEs around us. So this skill is pretty decent, and you get it very early in the game, so if you feel like playing Slammer, it's nice, but it needs more damage, and so does every single skill on the Slammer skill 3. This brings us to Spike Drive, another skill that needs more damage now that they've nerfed the Lantern Flash tier 2 bonus by a big amount. I mean, I understand why they nerfed it to make train skills not as overpowered, but they should have boosted Slammer skills before doing that, or alongside doing that. But it's good. It's definitely a good skill, and you can combo very nicely with the Slammer skill 3. You can get charges for Spike Drive by consuming endurance. You don't have to even hit an enemy by consuming that endurance. You can target something wherever and do Pound, or do Blasting Charge, or do Hammer Spin, anything that can consume endurance, even train skills, anything that can consume endurance. Lantern Flash train skills can trigger it can trigger Spike Drive. So Yes, another underwhelming skill, but at least we used to use it before to get some nice damage with Lantern Flash and to apply slow on bosses. But now Lantern Flash and the slow on bosses are not needed, it's only 10%, not 65%. And this really makes this hero weak compared to the 50% bonus versus taunted Shasta gives to sharpshooters. Now we are moving on to Torque Swing, another skill which I think they didn't know what to do with this skill, because first they give it a knockback, then they give it a pull. And you do something like pulling the enemies and then pushing them away from you, which is completely pointless. What's the point of pulling the enemies if you're gonna knock them back right after? I think they need to rework the whole way knockback and pulling works in the game, and to allow every single skill that knocks back enemies to be interchangeable between knockback and pull with the click of a button. So Vortex Bomb to be able to knock back and pull, Goose on the sharpshooter to be able to knock back or pull, and this skill should either do knockback or pull, not both things at once. It's just ridiculous how it looks, how this ruins the whole pulling effect when you want to follow up with the melee attack and then it just knocks them back away straight after the pull. Now this brings us to Flying Picks, very fun skill, and with the item, the Stinging Wing, you can see you get decent cooldown, it stops bleeding, it starts poisoning, and you get Spirit Bros much quicker, the Pickaxe Spirit Bros. It's pretty fun, I love this skill. It may not be super strong and meta, but it's very good when you want to proc things, when you have something that you just... when you have a free empty slot on your skill bar and want to put something in there. This is me using a non-upgraded Flying Picks, level 0+2, so basically doesn't even have the tier 1 bonus, and it's still decent. Obviously not meta, but a very fun skill, especially with the Stinging Wing to make it quicker and give it more damage. And it can also apply poison, so it goes well for builds that need it. Now Blasting Charge, it's an amazing skill. It applies vulnerability to the enemies and makes you do more damage. As you can pay attention to the numbers, you would see how the damage I'm doing with Pound is bigger when they're vulnerable, and then with the Blast Breaker, which I wasn't using during this footage, you can have some synergies, or maybe I can't remember, but with the Blast Breaker you make it not consume endurance. I think I wasn't using the Blast Breaker because it just consumed endurance. So you can see the basic attacks, everything gets stronger because the enemies are vulnerable and take more damage. And this goes very well for team play because your teammates would also benefit from that vulnerability. You can stack it with the vulnerability from Goose. And if you have someone buffing the team with Consecration, it goes well. And if you have someone with Sonic Pulse making the enemies vulnerable, it stacks as well. Now let's talk about Lantern Flash, a skill that's kind of mediocre, but at least it's AoE and at least it has okay range. You can see I can hit all 4 of those dummies from here. And it has damage over time, and each damage over time can proc things like lightning bolts lightning strikes from the Electrode, or Firestorm from the Flaming Destroyer, Spread of Death, and so on. So I think it's pretty nice, but mediocre at best, especially now that they've removed the tier 2 bonus. Not removed, but nerfed from 65% to 10%, and now we just don't have that extra damage other classes can get from various things like items or passives. And this brings us to Hammer Spin, the mobility skill, which also is a melee skill. It can also trigger things like the Skittering Legs. It can also benefit from certain synergies like the Winterweave Boots or the Wanderer's Hood or Centrifugal Demolisher to give it extra damage and an extra charge. You can see it gives you damage reduction because it counts as a melee skill, so Fighter Spirit. And then the Bubble Shield we get is amazing. Tier 3 Hammer Spin, in my opinion, is amazing for your survivability. With that one alone, and with Tier 2 Blasting Charge for increase damage reduction from Fighter Spirit, you get good survivability without even needing to rely on Shield Car. And yeah, if you wanna be fast, you can combine this with the Winterweave Shoulders and get a Blink skill. alongside hammer spin. That pretty much is it for those things, for the Railmaster skills. I hope it helped some of you decide whether it's your kind of class, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. And hopefully you enjoy playing the Railmaster as much as I do, and enjoy the skills. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, wooter shooters and all sorts of wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content updates. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the Struck Club on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shoutouts and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, Struck Club. Until next time, and good